Chapter 10. An Amazing Meal. After a little rest, Daddy and Jeremy James were ready to see London by night. "Off to enjoy yourselves, are you?" said the bushy man at the table. "Yes," said Jeremy James. "We're going to be happy." "Lucky you," said the man. "What are you going to do?" said Jeremy James. "I'm going to stay here," said the man, "and be miserable." "Well, you won't be happy if you're miserable," said Jeremy James. "The way I feel," said the man, "I wouldn't even be happy if I was happy. What a life." It was dark outside now. Soon Daddy and Jeremy James were walking along a street full of brightly lit shops, red double-decker buses, black box-like taxis, hundreds of cars, thousands of people. This road suddenly broadened out into a roundish area with streets going off at all angles and huge flashing signs that kept changing their appearance. "This is Piccadilly Circus," said Daddy. "I can't see any circus," said Jeremy James. "Well, there isn't one," said Daddy. "That's just its name." "They shouldn't call it a circus if it isn't a circus," said Jeremy James. "That's cheating." The circus, that wasn't a circus, was supposed to be the heart of London, and at the heart of London was a funny-looking statue. When Daddy and Jeremy James crossed the road to look more closely at it, they could see it was a naked child with wings and a bow and arrow, and it was somehow balancing on one foot. "He's going to fall over," said Jeremy James, "and he shouldn't be playing with dangerous toys." They watched the statue for a minute or two, but it didn't fall over and it didn't fire a single arrow. Jeremy James wasn't really surprised. In a circus that wasn't a circus, you could hardly expect a falling statue to fall or an archer to fire an arrow. They walked up the streets that led off Piccadilly Uncircus, and it had a lot of theatres in it. "Would you like to go to the theatre tonight?" asked Daddy. "Yes, please," said Jeremy James. "Right," said Daddy. "Let's see if we can get 2 tickets." The theatre they went to had a lot of pictures of wolves outside, and Daddy said there was a musical show called Wolfie here, which he thought Jeremy James might enjoy. And so they went into the big entrance hall of the theatre, where Daddy asked the lady in the box office if she had 2 tickets. "We're lucky," he announced a moment later, and waved the tickets in the air. "And now I've got another suggestion. How about something to eat before the show?" Daddy was full of good ideas this evening. He even knew which restaurant they would go to and where it was. "You had to go along the street, turn right here and left here and... no, wait a minute. Back we go. It should have been right here and left here and... back we go. There it is!" The restaurant was called La Campanile, which Daddy said was French for bell tower, though it hadn't got a bell and it wasn't in a tower. They were welcomed by a tiny bald man in a black jacket and a bow tie. "Bonsoir, monsieur," he said. "You wish to have a table for 2 persons? Bon, come this way, please." He took them to a table in the corner, fetched a high cushion for Jeremy James, bowed his head to both, and then with a flourish of his hand produced a menu. Daddy read through the list, and Jeremy James waited for him to say bacon and eggs, sausages and roux mushes, but he didn't. He did say chicken and chips, and so Jeremy James chose chicken and chips. Daddy said he had chicken and chips for lunch, so wouldn't he like to try something else, like veal escalope, for instance? Jeremy James had never heard of Willie's Gallop, but it did sound quite interesting, and since it came with chips, he said, "Yes, all right, just this once." Willie's Gallop proved to be a success. Thin slices of meat covered in a golden batter, very tender, very tasty, and the chips were just as golden, crisp and crunchy, exactly as Jeremy James liked them. "You don't want any dessert after that, do you, Jeremy James?" asked Daddy, when the last golden crumb had disappeared. "Yes, I do," said Jeremy James. "A meal without a dessert would have been like Nelson's column without Nelson." "Right," said Daddy, "follow me." Jeremy James followed Daddy across the restaurant to a large lighted cabinet. On the open shelves of the cabinet stood dish upon dish of puddings, pies, mousses, gâteaux, trifles, tarts, jellies, fruit salads, ice cream. "Help yourself," said Daddy. Jeremy James's eyes opened as wide as two dessert bowls. "To anything?" he asked. "Whatever you like," said Daddy. "As much as I like?" asked Jeremy James. "As much as you can get in the bowl," said Daddy. No dessert bowl was ever piled as high as Jeremy James's. He took a portion of pudding, a piece of pie, a mountain of mousse, a tremble of trifle, a tingle of tart, a judder of jelly, and an iceberg of ice cream. Heads turned to look at the amazing dessert bowl with legs as it's made its way carefully across the restaurant to the table in the corner. "You'll never be able to eat all that," said Daddy, though his own bowl was almost as high as Jeremy James's. "Nor will you," said Jeremy James. They were both wrong. For the next 10 minutes, not a word was spoken, as spoons and forks and scooped and sliced and squelched their way through the multicoloured mouthfuls. If every Londoner could come and have dinner in the bell tower, thought Jeremy James, they would never be unhappy again. When at last the bowl was empty and Jeremy James was full, the little bald man in the black jacket and the bow tie came to the table. "Did you enjoy the meal?" he asked. "Yes, thank you," said Jeremy James. "It was the best meal I've ever had." "Ah, bon," said the man. "Then perhaps you will come again." "Yes, please," said Jeremy James. "When?" "Whenever you like," said the man. "Can we come tomorrow?" asked Jeremy James. "You must ask your father," said the man. Jeremy James didn't know what a father was, but Daddy seemed to understand. "We'll see you next time we're in London," he said to the man. "We're going to be in London tomorrow," said Jeremy James. Daddy had obviously forgotten that.